The church went silent the moment Keanu Reeves stood up, gripping a weathered journal like it was a bomb about to explode. Then he said it, "Diane Keaton, you were never told the truth." Gasps filled the room. No one knew the secrets hidden in that book, secrets the man in the coffin fought to hide his entire life. What Keanu revealed next didn't just shake Diane. It sent shockwaves through everyone who heard it. This is the truth Hollywood never expected to face. Nothing could prepare the mourners for what happened the moment the church doors closed behind them. The air was thick with grief, heavy with the scent of rain-soaked flowers, and the soft murmur of people offering condolences. Outside, the sky had darkened ominously, and the rain began falling harder, striking the ancient stone walls with a rhythm that sounded almost like a warning, a drumbeat of fate no one could ignore. Inside the church, the silence was almost suffocating, broken only by the occasional sniffle or the shuffle of shoes across the cold marble floor. Keanu Reeves stood at the front of the procession, a figure of calm amidst the storm of emotions around him. Yet beneath that composed exterior, his heart was a tumultuous storm. He carried a secret, one that had weighed on him silently for years. It was a truth too heavy to speak in casual conversation, too sensitive to share in the bright glare of public life. But today, in this sacred space, surrounded by the people who had known and loved the deceased, Keanu realized that the moment to reveal it had finally come. The man lying in the coffin had been more than just a friend. To many, he was a brilliant filmmaker, a visionary whose works had left an indelible mark on cinema. To others, he was a confidant, a mentor, a quiet soul who had inspired creativity in everyone he encountered. But to Keanu, he was the keeper of a secret that connected Diane Keaton and her past in ways the world could never have imagined. And now, standing there in the muted candlelight of the church, Keanu could feel the weight of that secret pressing down on him, demanding release. Around him, the congregation murmured in low tones. Cameras flashed outside, capturing every shadow and movement, and whispers darted from one mourner to another like nervous fireflies. Everyone thought they understood the story of this man, the public persona of Diane Keaton, and even Keanu himself. But what they didn't know was that grief has a way of unearthing things that were long buried. Things that, once revealed, can change everything. As he watched Diane seated quietly near the front, her posture elegant yet tense, Keanu felt a pang of sympathy and apprehension. She had lived a life in the spotlight, celebrated and scrutinized, adored and dissected. Yet, no amount of fame or public attention could have prepared her for the truths she was about to face. The past she thought was long behind her, the choices she had made, the secrets she had kept, the love she had lost, was about to resurface in a way she could never have anticipated. The funeral was meant to be a farewell, a chance for friends, family, and admirers to pay tribute. But for Keanu, it had become something far more significant. This was not just a moment of mourning. It was the moment everything would finally come to light. Every unspoken word, every hidden memory, every emotion tucked away behind layers of time was converging in this sacred space. And Keanu, standing solemnly in front of the gathering, knew that once he spoke, there would be no turning back. A hush fell over the room as he inhaled deeply, the candlelight reflecting in his eyes, making them appear almost otherworldly. Every heartbeat seemed amplified in the silent church, each one echoing the weight of the revelation he was about to deliver. Outside, the storm raged on, the rain a relentless accompaniment to the storm of truth waiting to be unleashed inside. And Diane Keaton, she had no idea. She sat there, unaware that her past, her choices, and the secret she had kept close to her heart were about to collide with the present in a way that would leave everyone in the church, her, Keanu, and the mourners, forever changed. In that moment, the line between grief and revelation blurred. The funeral, meant as an ending, was about to become a beginning, a doorway into a story that had waited decades to be told. And when Keanu finally revealed what he had carried for so long, it would not just shock Diane. It would shake everyone who thought they knew the truth. A week before the funeral, Keanu Reeves received a letter unlike any he had ever seen. It was delivered by hand. No postal markings, no return address, nothing to indicate its origin. The envelope was plain, except for his name scrawled across it in sharp, deliberate handwriting that seemed almost to pierce the paper. Something about the way it was written made him pause, a shiver running down his spine. He held it carefully, as if handling glass, before tearing it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. His eyes scanned the words, and almost immediately he froze. The message was simple, yet it carried a weight that made the room feel suddenly smaller, the air heavier. When the time comes, you must reveal everything. She deserves to know, and so does the world. No signature at first, but a second glance revealed it. The note was signed by the very man they were now preparing to bury. The words struck Keanu like lightning. How had this letter come to him? Why now, just days before the funeral? And most importantly, what was the secret it referred to? But the letter contained more than just cryptic instructions. Inside the envelope, carefully wrapped in tissue, was a journal. Old, worn. Its leather cover had faded, corners bent, and a faint smell of dust and ink clung to its pages. Keanu's fingers trembled slightly as he lifted it, feeling the weight not just of the book itself, but of the memories it held. This was no ordinary journal. It was a chronicle of a life, a window into moments of vulnerability, triumph, and hidden emotion. He opened the journal, and the first pages were already telling. Stories of laughter and pain, sketches of places he had never seen, and notes that seemed to capture fleeting thoughts in real time. Some pages were stained with coffee, smudged by hurried hands. Others yellowed with the passage of decades. But as Keanu flipped further, he discovered entries that revealed an entire chapter of the man's life that neither he nor Diane Keaton had ever spoken about publicly. For Keanu, the experience was overwhelming. He spent an entire night with the journal, unable to put it down, unable to sleep. Each page peeled back layers of secrecy, exposing feelings and experiences he hadn't known existed. With every line he read, the truth grew heavier, more urgent, more impossible to ignore. It wasn't mere history. It was a living, breathing story of human connection and heartbreak. And what struck him most was the undeniable presence of Diane Keaton at the heart of it. The journal painted her not just as a colleague or a friend, but as someone deeply intertwined with the life of the man they were mourning. It described moments of inspiration sparked by her laughter, conflicts born from creative tensions, and the silent, unspoken bonds that formed between them in the quiet corners of their shared worlds. This wasn't scandal. It wasn't gossip. There were no salacious details meant to titillate or shock. Instead, it was something far more profound. A story of unspoken love, of creative battles waged behind closed doors, and of choices that had silently shaped two legendary lives. The journal captured the nuance, the subtle emotional truths, and the private sacrifices that fame and art often demand. As the night wore on, Keanu realized the magnitude of what he held. The journal wasn't just a collection of memories. It was a legacy, a bridge between the past and the present. And it had chosen him as its messenger. When he finally set the book down, exhaustion and awe washed over him simultaneously. He knew that the coming funeral would not be merely a farewell to a life lived. It would become the stage for a revelation that could alter everything Diane thought she knew about her own past. And somehow, in the midst of grief, he understood that the story contained in those pages was not meant to shame or scandalize, but to honor, to illuminate, and to finally bring a truth into the open that had been waiting patiently for decades. Diane Keaton was celebrated for so many things: her extraordinary talent, her magnetic charm, her unique sense of humor, and that unmistakable presence that lit up every screen she graced. Audiences admired her, critics praised her, and Hollywood revered her as one of its finest stars. Yet behind the glittering facade of fame, there were moments of mystery, times when even the most devoted fans had no idea what she was experiencing. Decades earlier, there was a period when Diane seemed to vanish from Hollywood almost entirely. For nearly a year, she was absent from film sets, premieres, and public appearances. Rumors swirled. Some believed she was taking a voluntary break, retreating from the relentless glare of celebrity life. Others whispered that she was secretly working on a private project, something so personal that she wanted no one to know. And then there were those who assumed she had simply grown weary of fame, overwhelmed by the pressures and expectations of a life lived in constant public scrutiny. But the journal held by Keanu Reeves revealed a story far different from anything the world had imagined. A story so private, so intimate, that only 3 people had ever truly known it. Diane herself, the man whose funeral they were now attending, and Keanu, who had stumbled upon the truth entirely by accident years later. According to the journal, during her mysterious year away, Diane had been engrossed in a deeply personal film project. Unlike the blockbuster productions she had starred in before, this film was not meant for the public eye. It explored raw human emotions, loss, healing, and the delicate fragility of human connection. It was a project that demanded everything from her, consuming her emotionally in a way she had never experienced before. The role forced her to confront hidden parts of herself, emotions she had never revealed in interviews, on stage, or even to close friends. The director of the project, now gone, leaving behind only memories in this journal, believed it was Diane's greatest performance. To him, her work in this hidden film transcended acting. It was transformative, even revolutionary. Yet despite the brilliance captured on film, the project was never released. Legal battles with studios, internal conflicts, and a relentless pressure of Hollywood politics conspired to silence it forever. The world never saw Diane at her most vulnerable, at her most raw, or at her most profoundly human. But the journal revealed an even deeper layer, one that had nothing to do with cameras or scripts. During the making of this private project, Diane experienced a heartbreak so intense it would leave an indelible mark on her life. A love story that had begun with promise ended in quiet devastation, undone by the emotional demands of the film and the pressures that accompanied it. The relationship, though deeply felt, could not survive the intensity of the work she was doing. And it was this unfinished love, written with such tenderness in the journal, that painted Diane not as a star, but as a woman, flawed, brave, and human. As Keanu read the passages, he could feel the emotions pouring from the pages. He realized the journal was more than a record of events. It was a love letter, a confession, and a testament to respect and admiration all at once. It wasn't meant to scandalize or embarrass. It was a chronicle of truth, a recognition of Diane's courage and brilliance during a period no one else had understood. The journal captured something rare in Hollywood: the vulnerability behind fame, the sacrifices behind art, and the moments of love and loss that shaped the person behind the star. To Keanu, it became clear that this was not gossip, not a revelation meant to shock. It was a story of admiration and respect, a truth Diane had never received but so richly deserved. In those pages, the vanished year of Diane Keaton's life was illuminated, not as a void, but as a profound journey of emotion, artistry, and humanity. And as the funeral approached, Keanu understood the weight of what he held. A story that could finally bring the past into the present, honoring the depth of Diane's hidden experience while revealing a truth that had waited decades to be told. As the funeral came to a close, the soft murmur of the crowd faded into a tense silence. Mourners lingered in small groups, unsure whether to leave or wait, the weight of grief hanging heavily in the air. Rain continued to streak down outside, now a steady, insistent drizzle that tapped against the church windows like a soft, mournful drum. And then, amid the subdued chaos, Keanu Reeves stepped forward. Every eye turned to him. The crowd instinctively drew back, sensing something significant was about to unfold. Diane Keaton, seated near the front, looked up, her brow furrowed in confusion. She could feel a shift in the atmosphere, an unspoken tension that made her heartbeat quicken. Everyone had expected a typical farewell, a few words of tribute, a final goodbye, but something in Keanu's demeanor suggested this was about to be far more than anyone anticipated. In his hands, he held the journal. Its leather cover was worn, creased with age, and the pages inside seemed to tremble as he lifted it. Perhaps it was the wind from the open doors, or perhaps it was the weight of decades of secrets and memories contained within. Whatever it was, the tremor seemed to echo the emotions swelling in the room, a subtle yet undeniable signal that the moment was mine. Keanu's voice broke the silence, calm yet deliberate, carrying across the hush of the assembled mourners. Before he passed, he left something behind, he began. His eyes briefly met Diane's, steady and reassuring. Something for all of us, but especially for you, Diane. A ripple ran through the crowd. Gasps of surprise and curiosity spread like wildfire. Cameras, which had been clicking intermittently, ceased entirely, as though the world itself had paused to listen. Even the rain seemed to soften, the steady rhythm outside mirroring the collective intake of breath inside the church. Diane's hands clenched lightly in her lap, unsure whether to stand, move closer, or remain rooted to her seat. Her mind raced. What could he possibly be referring to? And why now, at this moment, in front of everyone gathered to mourn? Keanu continued, his tone gentle but weighted with significance. He wanted the world to know the truth behind the work he did, the work you did together. And he wanted you to know how deeply your art, your kindness, and your courage shaped his life. The words hung in the air, resonating with everyone present. Mourners exchanged glances, whispering, sensing the gravity of what was being revealed. Diane's eyes widened. The journal now almost a tangible extension of the history she thought she had left behind. Keanu took a careful step closer, holding the journal with reverence, as if it were not just paper and ink, but a treasure containing the essence of a life once shared, now entrusted to her. Finally, he extended the journal toward her, hands steady, movements deliberate. "I won't read from it," Keanu said softly. "It's yours, and only yours to share when you're ready." Time seemed to stretch as Diane reached out, her fingers brushing against the worn leather. She lifted it to her chest, cradling it as if it were something fragile, precious, and irreplaceable. Tears welled in her eyes, not tears of shame, not tears of scandal, but tears of recognition. Someone had remembered her, truly remembered her. Someone had seen the courage, the vulnerability, and the artistry that she had poured into her life, even when the world had looked away. And then, her voice barely audible, she whispered, her words trembling with emotion. "I didn't know he still carried this." The moment seemed suspended in time. The mourners, once filled with grief and uncertainty, now stood witness to something rare and profound. A revelation that was not about scandal, gossip, or judgment, but about memory, respect, and the enduring impact of a life touched by love, art, and devotion. In that quiet church, surrounded by shadows and candlelight, the journal passed from one hand to another, a bridge between past and present, grief and revelation. And as Diane held it close, the world watched and waited for the story she would one day share. Within hours of the funeral, the news spread like wildfire. Social media erupted with speculation, news outlets scrambled for statements, and fans around the world watched in suspense. Headlines screamed with conjecture, each one more sensational than the last, trying to piece together what Keanu Reeves had revealed and why Diane Keaton appeared so visibly moved. Yet amid the chaos, Keanu made one thing abundantly clear. This was not a scandal, this was not gossip, and it was certainly not about